Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Anselmo Lee. I'm the regional coordinator of APSD, Asia Civil Society Partnership for Sustainable Development, one of the co-organizers of this webinar, especially with the GCAP and then Coalition for the UN. So we introduce later who are the key organizers and the background. This is a webinar number 5 on the 2 agenda, the policy brief related to economic issues beyond GDP and also international financial institutions. So we have, as you know, we have the 3 speakers. And then unfortunately, the Ivan from INFI, Indonesia, he just informed me that he's now in the hospital, so he cannot be with us. I hope he's recovering soon. So according to the schedule, let me invite first Becky to introduce the agenda. What is especially those who are not familiar with the Summit of the Future. Becky will give us an update, what happened so far and then what is going to happen. Okay, Becky, you have a floor, please.
Thank you very much. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning to everyone. My name is Becky Malay. I work in the Philippines. I am a member, I was former chair of the Global Call to Action Against Poverty, and I'm a steering committee member. It serves as the board of the and for in the preparation of the future. Last year in 2023, we had the Global Futures Forum, and before that, 2 years ago, when the OCA, our common agenda, came out, we actually already started with a lot of work to prepare and coordinate with different missions on the Summit of the Future. So far, many things have been happening, and much progress has been happening in terms of the civil society preparations and inputs. And we'd like to continue on with outreach to get to more people to participate, to more civil society organizations to participate in the Summit of the Future. So I'll just give you a brief background and context of the summit. So what's going to be covered by the Summit of the Future. And then, of course, we'll be focusing and zeroing in on the topics for tonight, which refer to economic transformations that we are all aspiring for, so that the structural changes that we need and the systemic changes that we actually need to put in place are put in place in a strong multilateral system. So let me share my screen. Anselmo, can you please enable my...
Oh, yes, just a minute. Yes, now you can. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Can you see it now?
No.
Not yet.
Now what we see is Anselmo's Korean.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
It says here, my screen is loading.
Yeah, now it's okay. Yeah, so sorry.
That one.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we're here now. The Summit of the Future is going to be held in New York from September 22 to 23 this year in 2024 during the UN General Assembly. And what do we want? What do we see in the Summit of the Future? What will it deliver? It is supposed to strengthen international cooperation so that it can deliver fully and fairly to existing agreements while enabling us to respond to new threats and opportunities for the present and future generations. And in doing so, restore trust and multilateralism and each other. This is a very important goal because we have had a lot of agreements in the past, including Agenda 2030, the Paris Agreement on Climate, the other COPs on biodiversity, desertification, and the rest. And of course, our main topic for tonight, the financing for development. But a lot of challenges still remain to be faced squarely by governments and by the system itself. So in October 2021, our common agenda was released. This is the document that the Secretary General came out with as a boost to accelerate the SDGs. And it is seen to impact on several areas, 11 policy areas specifically, which are first, safeguarding the future. Safeguarding the future, there is an objective to declare, to have a special envoy to be appointed in the political declaration, a dedicated intergovernmental forum, and the use of foresights, data, and data science for managing the future. And then second is to be able to manage global shocks that are happening everywhere, it seems, in the last so many years, mainly challenging the implementation of the SDGs and the advancement of Agenda 2030. An emergency platform is seen to be convened by the Secretary General's office to respond to these shocks. And then there is an impact area, a policy area that refers to young people, and what it intends is to recognize and enable a meaningful inclusion of young people through national, regional, international youth consultative bodies, adopting global standards for meaningful youth engagements with government, with multilateral institutions, enable a framework for progress and participation in these avenues from local to the United Nations. And then also recognition of clear participation and meaningful inclusion in decision-making processes. And to this objective, there is envisioned to be a UN Youth Town Hall that is going to happen very regularly. And then the fourth area is measuring what we value. And this is one of the topics for today. We all know that the GDP is a very weak measure in terms of real impacts, not only on the economy, but on our social and environmental aspects of our lives. So we need metrics to complement the GDP as a measure, and the political commitment to adopt a framework that will value what counts. No? Mainly, this aims to have a dashboard of key indicators and increase the statistical and data capacities of governments to measure beyond GDP. The fifth area is an open, free, and secure digital future. There is a digital compact that is seen to be agreed upon to secure a free and secure digital future based on global cooperation for human development. So SDG progress is also aligned with human rights and governance by humans for humans. So the digital compact is also seen to accelerate connectivity, building infrastructures for connectivity and inclusion, and strengthening public regulations, especially on the use of artificial intelligence. No, there is also envisioned it is also envisioned to have an annual digital cooperation forum, a new artificial intelligence body to align artificial intelligence with human rights and the rule of law and the common good. And the next one is what we're going to discuss tonight at length, the global financial system that works for all. This will include global economic governance, lasting solutions on debt relief, international public finance and international climate financing, global safety nets, including the special drawing rights, addressing short-termism in capital markets, inclusive and equitable tax architecture. These are very important areas in order to enable an economic system that will work for us all and not only for neoliberal objectives, no, which have been all encompassing in terms of impacts, negative impacts on our economies, environment, and social lives, and have produced a lot of inequalities in all aspects of our lives. No? So this is the point of the discussion tonight. I know that the experts that we have invited will give light in terms of directions, especially probably inputs not only to the zero draft that has already come out for the Summit of the Future, the Pact for the Future, but also important inputs for the 2025 Financing for Development. And then we're looking also at sharing the benefits of space. This is a policy area that is really out of this world because it is outer space. So this includes a regime of frameworks for space sustainability. It is looking to space traffic management, space resources from outer space, debris removal, because there are
Are those
already
people
a lot
doing in
of
Bengal?
things that are already in the outer space that are beyond control right now. And then also a peace agreement that will include what's this? The prevention of arms race in space. No? So this is closely related to the new agenda of peace for peace. This was the topic of our last webinar last week, and it really is a very important issue because of the context where we are living in right now with the war in Ukraine, in Gaza, that has really impacts on human lives, especially that a lot of calls for ceasefire have not been heeded, and the Security Council has been proven not to be very effective in restoring peace in many areas, not only in those war-torn areas. No, so let us see. It actually wants to focus on the prevention and use of nuclear arms. So it's calling for disarmament. And then also a new way of doing peace operations and enforcement. And then, of course, the reform in the Security Council, a revitalized General Assembly, and the Peace Building Commission to be built up strong and powerful. And then another area which we have already tackled in the third webinar that we've had is transforming education. Education is a public good, and lifelong learning should be recognized as such. And education should be a major component of informing people and educating people so that inequalities are actually reduced, and transformative education is actually impacting on the kind of future that the future generations and the youth now will have. No? And then the next one is integrity in information. This is also related to data and science and AI. So information integrity aims to have a UN Code of Conduct for information integrity and the governance of digital platforms. No? And then UN 2.0, this is a reboot of the UN. It is increasing the expertise in innovation, data digital science, foresight, and behavioral science use, so that we will have a revitalized United Nations, and one that will actually be conforming to the original principles of the UN as a people's organization, or it is we the peoples that we should be primary in the United Nations. This is aiming to have coherence within the UN and its operations, from headquarters to national UN bodies. The outcome document of the SOTF, or the Summit of the Future, is called the Pact for the Future. It consists of 5 chapters, or what is sometimes called elements. The first chapter is on sustainable development and financing for development. Second chapter will deal with international peace and security. Third chapter is going to deal with science, technology, and innovation and digital cooperation. Number 4 will focus on youth and the future generation. And number 5 is transforming the global governance. Of course, this will be preceded by a declaration of a chapeau that will encompass, that will contain the principles that will guide this document called the Pact for the Future. As an update, we already have a 0 draft of the Pact for the Future, and written comments on the 0 draft are open. And this will be received until February 12, that is on Monday. And then, of course, the process that will be adopted is an intergovernmental negotiations process and consensus building, as in any of the agreements, in all of the agreements that have been reached in the past at the UN. And definitely, Agenda 2030 is the framework of the chapters. Just for information, the co-facilitators of the Summit of the Future are Germany and Namibia. And for the Global Digital Compact, we have Sweden and Zambia. And for the Declaration of Future Generations, we have Jamaica and the Netherlands. These are resources that are available for you to look online in terms of updates on what is happening. This is www.c4unwn.org. We keep tabs. This is the Coalition for the UN We Need. We keep tabs of everything that is happening. We have been doing a lot of work in talking to all of the missions that can be dialogued with. Last night, we had a steering committee or / board, international board meeting, and we have already reached several numbers of European and African and some Asian missions to influence their positions or take strong positions on the Summit of the Future, in the Summit of the Future, and uphold what civil society has been pushing them to adopt. No? And then for updates that are more live, we have the International Clearinghouse Bulletin of the Summit of the Future. This is also put up by the C4UN and other organizations, including the A4SD, the Action for Sustainable Development platform. No? And then obviously we all need to monitor what is happening at the UN through this website, the last one. So that's it as a general guidance for everyone. And I'm very eager to listen to the inputs in the next hour. Thank you very much. And let's all be active in our participation.
Okay, thank you very much, Becky. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very clear and very up-to-date the information, especially I already put all the reference document in the chat box. The one of them is the Becky mentioned, the 0 draft, the Pact for the Future, which is outcome document of Summit of the Future, is available now. But you said the 12th of February is a deadline for initial input, right?
Yeah, written inputs.
Written input.
Yeah.
That means after 12 of this February, the oral input.
No, I think they will start the process of the governmental negotiation.
Negotiation process, right?
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
means
We have a window to get into the processes by submitting our written inputs.
the initial written input
Yeah.
before 12 of we have only 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
So let's see, let's discuss later on how we can give our input based on our webinar. This is number 5. So we have received a lot of the interesting presentation and also discussion. Maybe based on this, we can draft something before deadline. Of course, we can continue to give our input after deadline, but different ways. Okay, without further ado, let me invite Jahangir Hassan Masum from chairperson of Reality of Aid, Asia Pacific. As you know, the ROA is very well known, the regional network working on financing for development, particularly ODA. So let me invite Jahangir. You have about 20 minutes to present. He will focus on the policy brief number 6, international financial institutions. Yes, please.
Thank you, Anselmo. Could you please share my presentation? Because I am connecting with the mobile, so.
I see, okay. Let me try, let me open that one, just a minute.
Okay.
Okay, just a minute. Oops, not this one. I'm using dual screen. I need to find a way, Oops. Becky, can you help? You can download because I have the screen problem. Can anybody help? His PowerPoint presentation is available in the chat box. You can download and open the screen. Since I have some technical problems.
Then I can speak.
Yeah, you can speak. Yeah, you can speak for
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Please. Okay. Thank you very much to all the organizers for inviting me to discuss about an important issue, that is the reform of the international financial architecture. Basically, my presentation is focused on the policy brief 7 and its review and our assessments like that. Before I'm going to the presentation, so let me share that why we consider UN 2024 Summit of the Future is an important for us, because we believe Summit of the Future is an opportunity for multilateral agreement to strengthen the global governance towards the 2030 agenda. So this is a real opportunity for all the governments, all the people, civil society organizations who are involved in the 2030 agenda. However, we also know that, like all the other UN summits, there will be very limited space for CSOs. So the CSO has to be really very strategic to bring forward our messages. I also have a cautious mindset, because Summit of the Future, there will be so many issues will be discussed. So if we don't keep focus our objectives, we might be diluted in the process. So now I will basically try to highlight the primary messages of the policy brief number 7, especially I have not changed this or rewritten that. The main messages that comes from the things, some are like highlighted clearly. What you call so that it's basically not reform. You need really transformation of the international financial architecture, though the UN policy used a very short term reform. So the policy brief defines international financial architecture as the governance agreements of the global monetary and financial systems. And they clearly highlighted that the existing international financial architecture is entirely, yes, please, you got that, unfit for addressing current world challenges. And also, it is undemocratic because, next one, please. Yes. So it's undemocratic because the largest and richest countries control the decision making of these international financial institutions. Besides, the architecture is driven by the policy preferences of the larger economies, especially during any economic or financial shocks or crises. And the policy brief highlighted that this existing architecture is unable to combat the climate crisis and achieve the SDGs. And also, the existing IFA is unevenly accessible despite the multi-layered nature of the global safety net. The policy brief also talk about the international tax cooperation architecture. In fact, they use a soft language like to be strengthened. That means the current international tax cooperation architecture is also unfit to combat tax avoidance, tax evasion, and other illicit financial flows. Next, please. What is interesting that the policy brief mentioned that multinational enterprises, in fact, if they should put also the corporations, it would be really perfect message, exploit gaps and mixed messages in tax rules. Basically, multinational corporations exploits international tax cooperation architecture to shift their profits in low or no tax locations and their losses to high tax jurisdictions. Also, the current tax architecture is not well adapted to digital business models of the current time. So the policy brief highlights that the architecture requires reforms because it needs to rebuild trust in the system and to prevent a further fragmentation of international financial and economic relations. So this shows that the existing financial architecture basically is increasing fragmentation. That we can see if we look at the variety of funds on different aspects. And they want to reform to ensure effective global governance. Next, please. Interestingly, they highlighted three key barriers for reforming the international financial architecture. The first one is the resistance of the largest developed countries. Basically, they don't want to change the voting rights at the international financial institutions. And lack of coherence and coordination in global economic management, and lack of effective representation of developing countries. But anyway, this lack of effective representation of developing countries is linked with the voting rights at the international financial institutions. So I don't see that this one is very important barrier or even a barrier. The key point that I found very interesting that why they are motivated for this reform, because they clearly articulated the failure of the current international architecture. So that means this existing financial architecture is no way to able to support any kind of long-term stable financing for either sustainable development goals or climate change issues or even the multidimensional crisis we have. And this policy brief provided 17 action steps in order to reform the international financial architecture. Next, please. So I have tried to summarize their action steps and try to identify key recommendations they provided within the things. Here, basically, I will also the presentation you will see the exact wording. I haven't changed it. I will put my comments also in there. For example, reform and strengthen the global economic governance. In fact, the way they highlighted the action steps, this should be better represented if they put it as a transforming the global economic governance. And they already mentioned in the action 1 that transforming the governance of the international financial institutions is a very key thing. I will not go on the recommendations. Just I will highlight in some areas. Action 2 highlighted that there is a need for a apex body for coordination and representation on the economic issues, like it could be in the biennial summit format, or there could be an economic security council in the future. Then also they highlighted like a reduced debt risks as an action. In fact, action 3 should be like increased transparency and effectiveness of global debt management, because it is just not sovereign debt market issue or only the debt risk. It's overall global debt management architecture. Next, please. So they then highlighted massively scale up development and climate financing. And they articulated that they need to increase development lending. Financing they're putting, but the first action point they're trying here, action 5, is massively increase development lending. And but interesting part of this recommendation, we found that they have tried increase local currency lending. Maybe this is a kind of innovation in the context to reduce risk as well, debt risk as well. And action 6, basically they focused on changing the business models of multilateral development banks and other public development banks. So, and here they recommended that it should be aligned with international human rights, labor, environmental norms and standards. And also, no public development banks would finance in the fossil fuels. They also put some points to develop new frameworks for leveraging private finance. Next, please. So still 3 more action points on massively scale up development and climate financing. So action 7 dedicatedly focuses on increasing climate finance, especially ensuring additionality. So this should be new and additional finance, the way even if people see is telling, so that they highlighted. And here also they emphasized on massively scale up grant finance. And the action 8 basically tells about the collaboration among the different multilateral development banks.
Sorry, Gianna, can you put the next slide? Yeah, thank you.
So I think we can go now. Next one. So I have to go quickly because 17 action points. Now comes to point strengthen the global. Which one you are? Next, please. Yes. Now. So strengthen the global financial safety net. It's basically a key charge, and action 10 and 11 basically is supposed to address that. Here mainly they are focusing on IMF issues and addressing capital market volatility. At the same time, when I gone through that text, basically this term strengthen seems a mismatch. It should be better if they put that redesign the global financial safety net or revamp the financial safety net, because existing one has a lot of loopholes they have already mentioned in the policy briefs. And the next one, action 12, that is basically focused on the rules of the financial system. And here it highlighted long-term equity investments, regulation supervision of the banks, and next, please. Okay. So next one, that in the same financial system, they say make business more sustainable. And we find that this one is basically should be make business accountable. So the message seems different than the way the text or cases within the policy be highlighted. And action 14 basically tells strengthen global financial integrity standards, because they already recognize that there is an urgent need to create global standards for holding professionals accountable for the illicit financial flows. So then action 15 focuses on the global tax architecture. And here they emphasis on to make it global tax cooperation inclusive and more effective, and simplify the tax rules and especially to address the digitalization and globalization context. Next, please. So now if we assess the pertinence of the policy brief 7 in tracking current global and regional challenges on the ground, I would say that the policy brief has highlighted many points, but these points, the CSS on the ground has recognized long ago and advocated for these changes also long ago. So in this context, this is nothing new basically they have proposed. Because we all know that global South countries are underrepresented and have little influence in the international financial architecture. And also we know that international financial institutions' current structure policies are not democratic, accountable, and transparent. Next, please. So, like lack of regulation over financial markets, CSOs has been long talking on this and showing so many cases, and we are demanding additionality for delivering climate finance, phase out of fossil fuels, And the policy brief also clearly highlighted that the current model for leveraging private finance is very ineffective. For example, they even shows that the World Bank highlighted in their policy papers for in the leveraging private finance context, the trillions of dollars will come through this model, but it doesn't really produce any. And also, many times ADB evaluations highlighted that their projects within the private sector are the worst performer. So civil society has been taking that this option should be the worst option in terms of financing development and climate. Next, please. Also, the civil society is talking for that financial architecture should realize human rights, not supporting or reducing market risk perceptions. And we are also telling that developing countries are suffering from severe debt problem, especially the policy brief highlighted that 40% of the all developing countries are suffering from extremely expensive market-based financing. And that is increasing also their debt distress. And for that, they cannot really able to invest on economic growth and sustainable development in their own countries. And also the policy brief strongly recommended that gender equality and financial integrity should be the key pillars of any IFA reform. And we civil society have been talking this one for quite a long time. Next, please. However, I think still some key points that civil society has been demanding or highlighting is not recognized. One is that we all know that this current financial architecture is creating silent structural violence. And as an impact, visible development injustice we can see. And this architecture basically nurturing hegemony of the largest economies. And also, they should really clearly highlight that systemic inequalities and systemic barriers within the multilateral systems are the main causes for the crisis we face today. And also the message they're delivering that development needs more lending multilateral development banks. Rather, the message should be that they need more development assistance in grants, not loans, for SDGs and climate finance. Next, please. So in my concluding parts, that what type of measures the CSOs can adopt to address the challenges and capitalize the opportunities. The reality of Asia Pacific believe that there is still opportunity for us using this reform policy document by using our own cases and other our analysis, highlight the structural barriers and inequalities. Because then it will show that to make this reform more effective and updated, it must address structural barriers and inequalities. And also, we can highlight that international financial institutes and private sector are not strictly effective and transparent to mobilize financing and implement development and climate projects. We must demand accountability from private sectors. We have already exposed their adverse impacts on people's rights, development, and environment at community level. And considering the current debt crisis, we should really call for the cancellation of debts of the developing countries so that they can respond to emergencies and pursue sustainable development. Next, please. We should also remind donors that about their historical commitment to provide official development assistance and additional climate financing grants, not loans. We can revisit our cases of IFI governance structure and policies that have not allowed for better mobilization of financing and decision making. We should call on all governments to strengthen mechanisms to provide oversight and regulate business activities and tax abuse by aligning with international standards on labor, gender, environment, and human rights. Next, please. Next one, please.
I think my laptop has a problem loading. I will flash the next slide in a bit.
Okay, I think I can finish at the point. That is the last slide, I think. Yes.
This is the second last.
Yeah, this is second to the last.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So as there is a to ensure that local actors have their voices and empowered in development processes, we can pursue for localization agenda and local development and climate initiatives. We can highlight the decolonization approach should be incorporated in reforming the international financial architecture so that we can shift effectively power to the people and minimize the role of large corporations and financial institutions in development. And civil society should monitor the implementation of the Pact of the Future. And finally, I would say that as this is an ongoing debate will go on, we should engage at the Financing for Development Forum, which will be in 2025. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Jahangir Masum. I think it's very well articulated, very comprehensive. Not only assessment but also the action agenda for CSO on this Summit of the Future. And also lastly, he highlighted the upcoming event, which is Financing for Development Forum 2025, after Summit of the Future. So thank you once again very much for your very good, enlightened, and also the insightful presentation. Now is the overview about key issues and challenges related to the international financial architecture. So now let's go a little bit more down to earth, more practical one. Now we have a Benjamin Quinones from Asia Secretary for Solidarity Economy. He will also give us the presentation about social solidarity economy and financial architecture. Okay, Ben, you have a floor about 15 to 20 minutes, please.
Yes, I just put up my.
Oh, yes. Okay, good.
Okay, can you see this?
Yes. Okay, good.
Okay. So I am focusing my presentation on the policy brief number 6 because it advances the UN Summit of the Future 17 actions to reform the international finance architecture. And my presentation focuses on action number 6. Let me just go to the next slide. So action number 6 states change the business models of multilateral development banks and other public development banks to focus on sustainable development goal impact and more effectively leverage private finance for sustainable development goal impact. Now, the rationale for this action has been articulated by the UN Summit, which noted that the current international financial architecture has failed to fulfill its core tasks and to support long-term stable financing for the sustainable development goals. So in this context, action number 6, I would like to submit to the Asia Futures Forum the proposition that a concrete step towards changing the business model of the international financial architecture is to support the development of social and solidarity economy, or SSE. Now, the rationale for this proposed proposition is that really, if you don't have an alternative economy or economic model that is an alternative to the neoliberal market economy, it is almost impossible to change the international financial architecture that is currently existing. So, if you want a international financial architecture that is really attuned to supporting development from below, you have to create an alternative economic model. And for this purpose, my proposition is that banking institutions should support development of social solidarity economy. Now, at its 16th plenary session meeting on April 18, 2023, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution promoting the social and solidarity economy for sustainable development. Now, SSE, or social solidarity economy, is an ethical and values-based approach to economic development that prioritizes the welfare of people and planet over profits and blind growth. In other words, we now have support from the UN itself of this alternative economic model, and at the same time, efforts are being conducted now by the UN Task Force on SSE, ILO, UNESCAP, and other agencies to gather or to mobilize the support of governments, while civil society organizations like the Asian Solidarity Economic Council is mobilizing support from below, the community-based organizations. Now, the official definition of UN about this social solidarity economy is that the social solidarity economy encompasses typical types of enterprises and organizations that are engaged in economic, social, and environmental activities to serve the collective and or general interest, which are based on the principles of voluntary cooperation and mutual aid, democratic or participative governance, autonomy and independence, and the primacy of people and social purpose over capital in the distribution and use of surpluses and of profits, as well as assets. In other words, this is an economic model that is contravening the very ethos of the neoliberal market economy. SSE entities aspire to long-term viability and sustainability, and to the transition from the informal to the formal economy, and operate in the all sectors of the economy. Because most of the actors in the SSE right now are in the informal economy, and I will explain this later on why this is so. They put into practice a set of values which are intrinsic to their functioning and consistent with care for people, equality and fairness, interdependence, self-governance, transparency and accountability, and the attainment of decent work and livelihoods. According to national circumstances, the SSE includes organizations like cooperatives, associations, mutual societies, or what we call membership-based organizations, foundations, social enterprises, self-help groups, which operate largely in the formal sector, and other entities operating in accordance with the values and principles of the SSE. So this definition is being used right now for purposes of identifying the actors, the economic, socioeconomic actors of this social solidarity economy. And for this purpose, there are principles of the social solidarity economy that are being used right now in order to identify enterprises, organizations that are considered to be the primary actors of this economy. The first principle is that the organization must be engaged in economic activity. In other words, the enterprise organization must be involved in wealth creation, not only generating activities that do not create wealth, but they must be able to participate in creating wealth. As entities generate a profit or surplus through the production of goods or provision of services. It is not the creation of profit that is bad or wrong. It is the use of profit, how you use profit, that is the crux of the matter. So for SSA, the second principle is that we put primacy of people and planet social purpose over capital in the distribution of use of surpluses and profits as well as assets. Because the asset entities reinvest all or large portion of the surpluses and profits as well as assets to the social mission. And this kind of behavior distinguishes the SS entities from the capitalist organizations or enterprises. The third is that the SS entities contribute to this work and the sustainable development goals in terms of the social, economic, and political targets or goals. In terms of gender equality and women's empowerment, decent work and economic growth, and the transition from the informal to the formal economy. Number four, the organization or entities are engaged in carrying out activities that contribute to decent work and SDGs through cooperation, working together, resource sharing in the interest of their members, users, beneficiaries, communities, and society. So sharing, working together, cooperation, these are the ethos or the values that propel the mutual aid activities of SSA entities. The fifth principle is voluntary cooperation. Participation in SSA entities is not forced or compulsory and must involve significant element of choice. Members and users join and remain in SSA entities voluntarily and freely without penalty or the threat of penalty for non-participation. The sixth principle is democratic and participatory governance. And this has been our call for the international financial architecture to adopt a more democratic and participatory governance. But you cannot do that with the international financial architecture. This is being done by the SSA entities. The rules applicable to SSA entities provide for democratic, participatory, and transparent governance, enabling member control through active participation in setting policies and making decisions, and by holding elected representatives accountable. In primary SSA entities, members have equal voting rights, one member, one vote. Finally, the seventh principle is autonomy and independence. The SSA entities are self-governed. They must enjoy autonomy and independence from public authorities and other entities outside the SSA and must not be subject to undue interference or control. Now, what is the difference between the SSA entity and the economy? I use the analogy of tree and the forest. Organizational entities or enterprises can be likened to the tree. The trees comprise the forest. So when you have a conglomeration working together of SSA entities, they create an economy. Of course, the forest is larger than the sum of all the trees that grow in the forest, because you have also the water system there, you have insects, you have birds, and so forth and so on. Similarly, economy, the concept of economy is larger than the entities or organization, because it includes consumers, which are not business entities. These are individuals. They include non-profit organizations like government agencies, churches, temples, and charitable organizations. Now, there is now a movement initiated by ILO of mapping entities in Asia. Largely, the objective of ILO to map associated entities in several countries is to promote, strengthen policy that promote social economy in the countries. So the first phase of this mapping exercise of ILO was conducted in 2019 to 2021. It covered 6 countries: China, Indonesia, Japan, Malaysia, Philippines, and South Korea. And the phase 2 is from 2021 until this year, 2022-24. It covers 5 countries: Cambodia, Kyrgyzstan, Mongolia, Thailand, and Vietnam. Now, at the same time, the Asian Solidarity Economic Council is conducting case studies of as entities since the establishment in 2021. And at the International Conference on Building Inclusive Communities held in Kuala Lumpur on January 26, 28, 2024, only last month, 41 case studies from 12 countries were presented and discussed. This means to say that mobilization of SSE entities is not being done at the grassroots level. At the same time, mobilization and support of government is being done at the level of ILO, UN Task Force and SSE, UN SCAP, OECD, and many other international organizations. So mobilization of this, the formation of SSE, development of SSE, is not only from the top, but also very importantly from below. We are mobilizing the grassroots in order to develop, formulate, and then make this economy a real entity. Now, due to time constraint, I refer to the Association Sarva Farms, or ASEPA, of India to demonstrate how the organization practices the principles of SSE. It's very important for us to know how these are the principles are being undertaken at the grassroots level. ASEPA works in rural India with 1.8 million families across 10,000 villages in 8 states in India and the state of Tamil Nadu. The families are organized to self-help groups and federated district subdivision level as mutual benefit trust or MBTs. Now, you will note that self-help groups are operating in the informal economy, but once they are formally federated into mutual benefit trusts, which are registered, they are transitioned into the formal economy. To understand how SEPA works through the MBT, the case of Sarvodaya Mutual Trust Benefit Trust is featured here. It is located in Karyapati, a backward area located in Birodnagar district of Tamil Nadu. It was established in 2003. The Sarvodaya MBT currently has 235 self-groups as members, covering 3,237 women. Now, we are now looking into the 7 core features of SSE core features of Sarvodaya. It is engaged in economic activity. Most of the enterprises operated by women are in goat training, dairy, agriculture, farming, petty trade, mini eatery, garment stitching. So in 2022-2023, Sarvodaya Mutual Benefit Trust financed enterprises of 1,780 members with credit worth 64.35 million rupees, and MBT earned a profit of rupees 3.4 million. How does the MBT use the profit? The second feature, primacy of people over capital and the redistribution of profit. The profits of MBT are not distributed to the officers and managers of the organization. This is in contrast to the capitalist model of paying out the profit as dividends to a few people who are the shareholders of the organization or enterprise. The profit are used to provide financial as well as non-financial services to the members. Now, this also can also be found in the organization's contribution to decent work and SDGs through the mutual aid. Now, a number of activities are being undertaken in this core feature. For example, transition from informal economy to formal economy within the federation, with the Federation of Informal Separate Groups into the mutual benefit trusts. Second, gainful self-employment of members with financial and technical support of MBT. Third, wage loss compensation for pregnant women. Life loss compensation for girl children upon death of member parents. cook food to vulnerables like widows, elderly, disabled, who are engaged in labor work and constitute 27% of the MBT members. Food security, as if a food mart supplies food items to members on buy now, pay later basis. If the member cannot pay, the MBT shoulders the cost. Registering members in government health insurance program, construction water plants to supply safe potable water, and free mass wedding, that should be wedding, leading to abolition of dowry. In other words, you see, in the absence of government public presence in terms of supporting development, this organization is playing the role of organization that's independent, providing social protection, social inclusion measures to the people. Now, the last three core features: voluntary cooperation, democratic participatory governance, autonomy, and independence. These are practiced by Sambudaya MBT. Participation in the mutual and aid activities of the MBT is voluntary. Members can participate in and accept from the mutual aid activity of their volition. They elect their board of trustees, they organize their annual meeting, and the decision is final. They're autonomous, are not influenced, nor are they dependent from any public authority, because they generate their own economic activities, they mobilize their own savings, which provide financing support for their activities. So in conclusion, there are many commodity-based organizations developing countries, and they contribute to decent work and SDGs, similar to Sargodaya MBT. But they do not appear in the official statistics of public agencies. For this reason, many of our advocacies to the United Nations are directed to governments because they are the ones that are the key actors of the international institutions like the UN. So what happens is that the contributions to decent work and the SDGs of these community-based organizations, they are overlooked and they do not receive the attention of multilateral development banks and public development banks. Henceforth, they cannot also effectively leverage private financing for sustainable development goal impact. But you see, when we propose to these multilateral development banks and public development banks the financing of social solidarity economy, this is a low-lying fruit in terms of development effort. Because you can talk to these development banks. And if you create an alternative economic model, they're ready to consider that for financing. A concrete step that can be taken by multilateral financing institutions such as the World Bank, IFC, and the Asian Development Bank is to support the ACC mapping and ACC policy strengthening exercises currently being undertaken by ILO and the Asian Solidarity Economic Council. This measure could lay the ground for the provision of long-term financing for ACC towards the comprehensive achievement of decent work and the SDGs. Now, finally, I'd like to say that this advocacy of ours, in terms of mobilizing the grassroots, the public agencies, and at the international level, international financing institutions, we have conducted only last January an international conference, and from which we have drawn strong support from community-based organizations and some government agencies. But in 2025, when the ASEAN People's Forum will be hosted by Malaysia, we're going to put the agenda of SSE before the ASEAN summit and try to convince governments of ASEAN to support SSE with the backing of ILO, UN ESCAP, and hopefully UN Task Force on SSE. So with this, we hope that this agenda of creating an alternative economy as contradistinction to the neoliberal market economy can also be put forward to the summit of the future, UN summit of the future. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you very much, Ben. With very general overview of the SSA. At the same time, very concrete case studies, and also some agenda for our common advocacy on IFI. So with this simple, as I said, the E1 from InFeed, he's not well, he's hospitalized. That's why he cannot make a presentation. So with these two input, let's open the floor for Q&A and also discussion. I already put some questions while listening to presentations. First one is, I think, more Jahangir. Also, feel free to put your questions in the chat box. And also, if you want to speak, please raise up your hand. I'll give you floor. Otherwise, let me invite Jahangir to answer two questions. The first one is, I'm sure everybody aware of this Busan Global Partnership for Effective Rural Cooperation. ROA play a very important role together with many other CSOs from the Global South. So I don't know where is now the position of this global partnership in the reform of IFI, because global partnership Busan was very ideal in the sense this really the principle of mutual accountability, and also CSO is not as a secondary or outsider. CSO is a part of this partnership, even one of the co-chairs. So I'd like to Jahangir to share your view, if possible. How do you see this role of global partnership on the reform of IFI? Whether there's any meaningful cases. And also, second question, you also mentioned about debt, which is one of the important issues of IFI. And this historical and ecological debt issue, how this is linked to this negotiation in this pact for the future. Of course, the debt is historically the past issues, but it has an impact on today and also future. That's why the debt is one of the important issues in, I believe, in the Summit of the Future, and also 2025, the financing for development. So I put these two questions for Jahangir, because I know, because time constraint, you are not able to elaborate on this point. I hope you have some more to say about this too. And also for the Ben, you mentioned about ADB, and then we have also another, developed bank in the region, AIB.
Yeah,
and the
AIB,
BRICS
Asian
Bank,
Infrastructure.
So how this, was it any different? What is their attitude or their perception about SSE? Is there any difference among them? Or any positive approach? These are questions for Ben. So now, Jahangir, you first. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I will be very quick, especially on GPDC. Basically, this is the, I think,
Oh, okay. Jahangir, we cannot hear you. So your internet, the connection technical problem.
momentum for the civil society to even lead raise their voices and even facilitate the process sometimes. So definitely, I would say that civil society should really focus on GPDC issues, because ultimately it is the development effectiveness, that counts. Means why either whatever the Summit of the Future or the Sustainable Development Goal, whether it is providing effective development for the people on the ground. And to make development effective, you have to follow principles of effective development cooperation. So I think that many follow the principles of effective development cooperation. At the same time, I would say we should also incorporate in our own practice Istanbul principles for CSO development effectiveness. Because when in a forum like GPDC, where you will have for the bank issues, what I would say that there might be different names of these multilateral public development banks, but one approach is very common, that is big projects or infrastructure infrastructure-led development. So that really benefits either the elites on the ground or the multinational corporations. So they're not democratic in their decision-making process. They're not transparent and accountable. And many times they got a lot of indemnity because in our own experience, we have been like monitoring Asian development, and we know that it is the civil society's active activism that brings the safeguard issues in the table. So what I will encourage all our civil society friends that they should also realize they have a power, and that is carried by people. So people's power is sometimes channeled through us, and we should really utilize that power to bring the transformation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jahangir. Now, Ben.
Thank you, Anselmo. Actually, the multilateral institutions like Asian Development Bank and the World Bank, they are engaged already in funding, for example, microfinance institutions, but now they have also recognized the existence of what they call social enterprises. Social enterprises, in their definition, include cooperatives, associations, and many of those organizations mentioned by the UN. But this terminology is more acceptable to them because they would like to target really business enterprises. And many of these are micro, small, and medium enterprises. Micro, small, and medium enterprise, for example, in the Philippines comprise up to at least 96% of the entire enterprise in the Philippines. So they form the bulk, enterprises. And these multilateral organizations are aware of this. They have, in fact, funding for what is called MISME, or micro, small, medium enterprises. Only that they do not recognize the existence, or initiatives of organizations, community-based organizations, in creating an alternative economy. Fortunately, the UN has recognized that this is a new phenomenon, that social solidarity economy initiatives are now growing and vibrant in many countries, Latin America, Africa, Europe. And so, in fact, in our latest meeting in Kuala Lumpur last January, we were talking what Jahangir a while ago mentioned, mobilization of these grants, charity. There are many charity organizations all over the world, and they are not part of the international financial architecture of the government, that are governed by the government. They're impact investments. So in other words, we don't have to rely mainly on these international financial institutions governed by public authorities, because there are private entities, they call themselves impact investors, that are willing to put money not only in terms of loans but also equities, which Jahangir also mentioned a while ago, are very important in terms of supporting development. So really, in our view, if we create an alternative economic vehicle that creates wealth and provides benefit to the people, this will attract the attention and support of financing institutions, because money is neutral, it has no political ideology. So in other words, when you talk to the operators of these institutions, they can respond. They can respond. But if you talk, to them at the level of the UN, this is not the area where this question of funding, for projects at the grassroots are being discussed or being decided on. So in other words, there is a window, for engagement of these multilateral organizations. And the only thing that we need to do is to show that these initiatives are existing. For that reason, we are now trying to put metrics on this SSE as an economy. Very much like the statistics gathered, for GDP. We're trying to collect statistics to show, the values, the economic values produced by SSE. We believe that by doing this, we can show that this kind of economy, SSE, is vibrant and it can handle investments, not only small investments, but large investments that lead to creation of jobs and also provision of social protection measures, social inclusion measures, to a large number of population.
Okay, thank you very much. So you can read some more comment and questions in the chat box. I see there's one comment from Eri, Indonesia. I think she's a member of ASEC. In the macroeconomic focal growth, how indicate economics should be from perspective if SSE? So this is, I think, question addressed to Ben. This also related to the question, the policy brief number 4, the beyond GDP, the new indicators. The UN trying to promote new indicators as alternative GDP. So the social economic can be an alternative, the indicator can provide. Ben, can you answer this question right away?
Yes, and in fact, I have designed, a set of indicators to generate a different kind of perspective on SSE, and we'll be pilot testing this in a city in the Philippines, Quezon City. It includes, of course, economic values, economic indicators, but also indicators of the social protection and social inclusion measures that are created and produced and implemented by the SSE entities, whether they are really employing, disabled people, people who are socially excluded, and so forth. So these are the kind of metrics that we would like to collect, and what kind of social benefits are being provided, what are the environmental conservation measures being provided, how are they impacting the environment as well as society itself. So it's not only GDP or the income that we measure, it's also the social, political, environmental impact of these institutions or entities. For that reason, we have a 5-year SSE development roadmap, and this roadmap comprises of 3 major things. One is impact assessment. So we will collect data and we can share this with you. The second is mobilization of resources. We are mobilizing, creating synergies between what is called giving economy, these are the charitable institutions, and the SSE, which are wealth creation entities. And then also knowledge management, education, and training. So there's 3 components of the roadmap that we're going to implement. And we're going to propose this and promote this among governments so that more and more mapping and exercises and policy formulation can be done by countries, Asian countries, countries in Asia and the Pacific. So this is a big challenge. We require a lot of funding for this, but I'm very sure that there are organizations there that are looking for this kind of initiative of really mobilizing, the grassroots, and then measuring the economic dimensions, of their economic activities and also their social, environmental, and social impacts.
Okay, thank you very much, Ben. There's one more question for Jahangir. I think number 4. How ROA engage the IFI or MDB, such as ADB, AIB, and BRICS Bank? The BRICS Bank headquartered obviously in China. So ROA in Asia Pacific, you are based in Asia, but we have three important global development bank, ADB, AIB, and the BRICS Bank. Are you engaging with these all three or none? And then what is the difference in terms of your engagement strategies?
Yeah, can I address your question, Anselmo, on
Yes,
how
you,
we
Jahangir.
with CSO?
Primarily address Jahangir, but Jahangir is not in the room. Seems he has a connection problem. Yeah,
Yeah.
feel free. Ben, okay.
Yeah, thank you for that, Anselmo. Actually, through the ASEAN People's Forum, the ASEAN People's Forum was basically a human rights, advocacy forum. And then in 2015, we engaged with them. And through the years, they sort of opened up, and during the last ASEAN People's Forum in Indonesia, more and more of these rights advocacy groups have realized that really we need an alternative economic model, a model that is a different and alternative to the neoliberal market economy. So it cannot be created by merely, complaining to the government that the government is not responding to the rights of the people. We're saying that the people themselves, the ASEAN People's Forum itself, must create a program of really developing a new economy, an alternate economy, rather than telling the government what to do, which the government for the last 20 years have not responded to the human rights groups. So hopefully in 2025, we'll be able to attract the attention of the governments and for them to listen, because we are creating a new economy, and this new economy is not going to subvert, the rights of the authority of the government, but in fact, it will strengthen the government if they serve the people themselves. So this is the argument of SSE, and we believe that more and more rights advocacy groups are realizing that they must embrace, the advocacy of creating an alternative economy that is contravening the neoliberal market economy. We cannot let the neoliberal market economy exist, without an alternative. If we create an alternative, we're able to attract, advocacy groups and partners that can support the promotion of this values-based economic system.
Okay, thank you very much.
By the way, Anselmo, some of our partner organizations are participating in the World Economic Forum in Nepal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And social solidarity economy will be discussed there. And hopefully, more and more civil society rights advocacy groups will come to know, and they will join, or integrate, SSA into their advocacy.
Yeah.
Because really, if you look at the program of SSA, it addresses a lot, of the issues being addressed by rights-based organizations. The only perspective is that we're saying, yes, we can engage the government, but at the same time, we can mobilize the people in order to create an alternative economy. There is no conflict with that, because eventually we have to change the policy of the government. But if we cannot show that this economic model, economic paradigm can be measured and can be, engaged with, it will be difficult for us to convince public authorities to create conducive policies and financing institutions to put money there. Yeah? So this is our argument, that even here in the Philippines, the Central Bank of the Philippines is open to discussion about this initiative. And there is now a move to create, a roadmap for ISIS in the Philippines, with the Quezon City local government taking the lead. So eventually, this movement, will create more synergy, and we hope that the rights oriented advocacy groups will come forward and support, this initiative.
Okay, now I see the Becky. Becky.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, thank you very much for your inputs, Ben and Jangir. It's very important also to look at the work of the ADB and the AIIB and how CSOs are actually engaging with them. Right now, the ADB is actually looking at revisions or trying to see their environmental policy. They're having a review of their safeguards policies, which the most of the CSOs have actually put in place many years ago, because the implementation is not quite well kept, no? So obviously there are a lot of gaps in the implementation, because there are a lot of affected communities that have still been complaining, not only on displacement, but also on FPIC in indigenous communities. So the safeguards are not are being criticized right now. And the source of financing is actually more blended now. It's not only from just the multilateral banks, but from big private entities, which have collateral on the kind of disclosures on the disclosure policy. No? So these are very important areas, the nitty-gritty of development financing that we have to look out for in terms of regional and multilateral development banks. But I really like the discussion on social solidarity economy, because it really shows us that a lot of work are being done more effectively in terms of creating alternative economies at the local level, where the impact is most needed amongst poor and marginalized communities. So the kind of economic inclusion that they are aspiring for are actually being done through the spirit of solidarity and the principle of working together. So these are important developments that we need pushes for. Maybe in the discussion of the international financial architecture, it's really going to focus a lot on inequities between countries. And therefore, the tax architecture and are very important. And the what do you call that? Tax dodging at the international level should be an important issue that needs to be put in the comments in the chapters relating to in the zero draft. So there are several chapters already in the zero draft that has come out, and in the zero draft there are a lot of articulation on the kind of financial architecture, and I hope civil society, whether in Asia or everywhere else, are able to meaningfully input into these processes of the Summit of the Future. So over. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now Eddie from Indonesia.
Yeah, thank you. I want to respond number 10 that you raised in the chat. Actually, the SSE, it is important to underline what Ben said with analogical of the trees and the forest. Yeah. So because SSE is a paradigm, this is the mindset of the economy. So therefore, actually, there is no difference. You can find the SSE model, community model of economy in many countries, in Asia, in North America, in Latin America. But unfortunately, they have different language to say this model. So in Asia, might be we will have difficulties to talk if you said the social solidarity economy with the government. They haven't known yet, even the academic, they do not yet know this. So, but if you said, therefore, the advocacy in Asia mostly we use the social enterprises. But the social enterprises is little bit different with the SSE, as long they are not based on the collective economy, not corporated driven social enterprises. There is differences. So this is the challenge of the SSC. So to my opinion, luckily in Southeast Asia, we have the ASEAN People Forum, where we can have the advocacy strategy to promote, try to bring together all the NGO, civil society movement and frameworking, put it in the framework of the SSE. But so I am the chair of the ESSEC, so I'm still looking for the advocacy in the South Asia, where the South Asia CSO can gather and promoting the SSE in that area. Might be with the APSD can help us and support to promoting as well the SSE in the Southeast in the South Asia. So I think again, human rights, climate change, the activist environmental movement, we are all in the SSE paradigm, but thus we should all know, all the activists, that actually we are going in the same path, but we have to make a synergy among us. So so we can more stronger if we want to advocate the UN, because we are in the same framework of economic thinking. So this is that I learned from the SSE. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Eddie. I put a lot of questions because I'm converted to SSE. I'm committed to SSE. I have many friends in South Korea and also in Asia. Of course, ASEC is a member of APSD, because I believe SSE is like cross-cutting, you know, to human rights, SDG, and climate, you know, and inequality, you know. But unfortunately, not many people see that way, you know. They just say, oh, another business people, you know, another business people.
Yeah.
That's wrong, you know. That's why I was wondering how we can promote more effectively, you know. People understand, you know, SSE as a alternative at the same time, cross-cutting, you know, interlinkage between the human rights and climate and SDG, you know. So I think your presentation is a very good, Ben, you know. You gave us a very good framework and strategy and also case studies. I think we need to really promote, you know, through ASEAN and also other international forum. And also next week, there will be a big World Social Forum. I guess some of you will be there, right? Nepal World Social Forum, where we have an alternative economic forum. I hope we can discuss further, come up with a more concrete strategies, you know, coming years. So
let me just react. I'm very happy. I'm glad that you support ECC. What we really need is metrics. You know, I was involved in macroeconomic sector of the National Economic Development Authority of the Philippines, and we were estimating the GDP of the country. In other words, we need metrics, you know, to measure the economy called SSE. Then it is easier for us to promote or to make this known and understood by the people. Right now, we have only stories, you know, but we don't have the metrics, you know. So what is the value added, you know, of this economy? Yeah, if we have that, then you know we can measure in terms of dollars, you know, how much resources are being put into this economy. Yeah, who are the people in there? How many jobs are being created? All these statistics are quite important. That's why we are now initiating in among the member organizations of ASEC to collect this data and information. We have to create these statistics using the framework of SSE, yeah, and the 7 core principles. So I hope that you know, there is a way by which you know, the Asia Futures Forum can collaborate in undertaking this initiative of measuring, you know, SSE, because when we have that, it's easier really to convince, you know, even the governments to support. Because here in the Philippines, there is a social enterprise bill in the Congress, but it's now almost 20 years, yeah, and still the lawmakers have not decided on it. The reason is it's not well understood. There are no statistics, to show the impact of this sector. So for that reason, mapping, which is undertaken by LO, and measuring the impact, of this economy is very important.
Okay, thank you very much, Ben. I think let me see. Is anybody wants to make any intervention now? I don't see any more in the chat box. Jahangir disappear. I think the involuntary, why the voluntary disappear? I believe it's a connection problem, internet connection problem. Yeah. I think unless there is no more questions, and then let me invite Pradeep from GCAP Regional Coordinator, give us some closing remark, at the same time announcement about our forthcoming event. Pradeep, please.
Yes, thank you, Anselmo. Thanks, friends. It's been listening the full now 1 hour and 45 minutes, the whole presentation by colleagues, and like the most the social and solidarity economy, that theorization, new kind of theorization. I didn't know about it earlier. I'm sure it was existing, only that way I didn't. Probably this can well be termed in our language people's economy, which is contrary to the corporate economy. Ironically, when we are doing the webinar on international financial architecture, probably Anselmo's posts are being watched by Antonio Guterres. He today only released a video saying today's financial architecture is outdated, dysfunctional, and unfair. It favors the rich countries that designed it nearly 8 years ago. We must keep working for deep reforms to make the financial institutions and frameworks truly universal and inclusive. And these are the words which are coming from UNSG. I mean, we do not have any doubt on the commitment of the person himself, but how effective will be UN system is something is always under question. However, having said that, we see day in and day out how low and middle income countries are suffering due to this twisted international financial architecture. They are unable to, during the COVID time itself, they are unable to fund themselves because of the debt burden and all. And post-COVID, most of their resources are going into interest payment and debt repayment, leaving them really very less resources for social protection, education, and health. So how does I understand that most of the global problem lies here, that you economically exploit in a way and drain these poor countries, middle income, low LDCs and developing countries, to the extent that continue to depend on them. On one hand, there is a drain of resources from global south to north. On the other hand, in other forms, it will come in form of charity and all that. What we have been demanding is coming here clearly in the Summit of Future is more just international financial architecture, which ironically most of the leaders, global leaders, have also started speaking it. That's quite an achievement. What will happen is something to be seen, but it's quite an achievement. The World Social Forum will have some discussion on this, the alternative economy that Ben told. I put it simply as people's economy, where we'll see how the whole rich countries are getting richer, rich corporations are getting richer and being severely benefited under this financial architecture, to the extent that they are saying, I like to give you another figure. They are saying that the total wealth of 10 biggest corporations, which is around 10.2 trillion, that is equivalent to or more than the combined GDPs of all countries in Africa and Latin America. See the amount of wealth concentration in some people's hand. The whole Africa and Latin America put together, 10 corporations have more resources than these two huge continents. This is the age we are living in. And we are saying about equality. That's not possible without radical transformations. Initially, a friend from Realty had told that it's not reforms, it's transformation which is needed. Reform is not going to solve any problem. So we are looking forward to having more discussion on this. We are happy that UN systems is taking this seriously to at least say reform. We want a transformation, reform on this. How far we know also, I have always been saying, we have to engage with the system which may not be fully powerful. UN is the only system where we are engaged in. Blocks like G20 is still fine, G7 and all are so exclusive that there is very little scope for us to engage one, and they'll not listen to us. I hope that some of our voices are heard in the summit of future. We'll go toward more egalitarian global order, not just an extractive one. And it's not that we do not know. Every country knows it. Rich countries know it. We know it. It's difficult to change the systems. But we are hopeful with a new kind of people's economy coming to the fore, and people taking control of the things probably is the way out, is the future for the kind of world that we visualize. With this, let me also announce that as part of this series that Anselmo had started, we did 5 webinar series. Now all these 5 webinar series, their suggestions have come. The next level is we'll also be doing a meeting in a World Social Forum in Kathmandu, and another side event, physical side event, in-person side event in APFST on 21st Regional Forum in Bangkok on 21st. Please join us, whoever is there. I share the flyer with you, and then we'll take all these suggestions forward to the Nairobi conference, where the civil society meeting, the official civil society meeting, will be held to give inputs to the summit of the future. Thank you, Anselmo. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pradeep. Thank you once again, the band, and then Asek and Jahangir from ROA. Very much for your input and contribution. Let's continue to work together to make a more meaningful impact on this summit process. Okay, thank you. Okay, have a good day. Okay, bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Anselmo and everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.